Okay. We'll come onto the mat today and begin with just an easy seated position and just drop in and see how we're feeling and kind of come into the practice. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. And we'll just sit here for a moment, taking deep, slow breaths. Stretch your breaths out as long as you can while bringing air in and out evenly. So we're not bringing in the most air at the beginning of the breath. We're slowly bringing it in. And same on the exhale, slowly letting it out. Okay. Let's begin with, I like this sort of flowy, dynamic downward dog thing. So we're going to start in downward dog. And just take a second to pedal out your feet. Find your position where you're comfortable. And start by pushing your heels backwards. They don't have to touch the ground. It's mostly to lengthen your spine. Lift your hips up towards the sky. And bring your shoulder blades back towards each other and down your spine towards your hips. Creating space between your shoulder blades and your ears. Continue with that slow breath that we started with at the beginning. And when you're ready, start to roll your shoulders forward as if you're a wave that is just about to crash at the top of your yoga mat. So you're almost in a plank, but you're leaning over your wrists slightly and your shoulders are hunched. And then drop your hips slowly towards the ground until your shoulders fall back in line with your wrists. And lift your chin upward so that you're facing forward. And you're sort of in an extended cobra / upward dog modification. And I'm just swaying back and forth to sort of open up the hips and lower back. Sometimes I like to drop my left hip towards my mat and then roll over and drop my right hip towards the mat. Now tuck your toes onto your mat and keeping straight, strong legs, lift the backs of your knees up towards the back of your mat and back into downward dog. Deep breaths, checking in on your alignment. And now we'll just go through that flow a couple more times at our own pace. And I'll just narrate it as I go if you'd like to follow along with me. From downward dog, roll your shoulders forward to the front of your mat and slowly drop your hips. You can flip your feet so that the tops of your feet are touching the ground and keeping your thighs off of the ground. Settle into upward facing dog. Take a deep breath in and pushing back, tucking your toes under. Come into downward facing dog. Once again, roll your shoulders, flow forward to the front of your mat, and then transition into upward facing dog. Inhale and push back into downward facing dog. Drop your knees to your mat. Spread them a little bit to the width of your mat as far as you feel comfortable. Put the tops of your feet down on the mat and sink back into child's pose. You can put your forehead on your mat and just sort of relax here. Bringing back slow, steady breaths. Okay, now coming up onto all fours and then transitioning into an easy seated position. I would like to give pranayama a go for this class. I am going to walk us through alternate nostril breathing. It is a relatively easy and safe pranayama breathing practice, no matter what level you're at. So I'm just sitting like this. You could sit however is comfortable for you, but I like to sit with one foot tucked in towards my tailbone and the other one just sitting on the floor in front of it. You can stack your legs. You can do whatever is most comfortable. The goal is that your sitting bones are contacting the ground evenly, and then your spine can sort of sit upright comfortably without you having to try too hard. If it helps, you can put blocks under your knees. Now, keeping your left hand on your left knee, bring your right hand up in front of your face, and we're going to use our ring finger and our thumb in this breathing practice. So we'll begin by putting our thumb on our right nostril and basically blocking it. And we'll breathe in for 4 counts, and then we'll block our left nostril so that both of them are blocked with our ring finger and thumb. Hold for 8 counts. Release our thumb so that we're opening the right nostril. Breathe out for 8 counts. And then we'll start over on the other side. So let's begin. I will go through one complete round together, and then you can do that for until I say stop, basically. Okay, so beginning with the thumb, your right thumb on your right nostril. Breathe in. Close with your ring finger and hold. Release your thumb and breathe out. Breathe in through your right nostril. Close your thumb, hold. Release your ring finger and breathe out. Breathe in through your left nostril. Close your ring finger and hold. Release your thumb and breathe out of your right nostril. Breathe in through your right nostril. Close your thumb and hold. Release your ring finger and breathe out. And now continue on your own. on your last exhale through your left nostril, put your hands, both of them, on your knees. Keep your eyes closed and breathe naturally. When you're ready, open your eyes. And we are going to work our way through the chakras today, starting with the crown and working our way downward. We'll just do this in a more traditional Hatha way where we do one posture at a time. And it will be less of a flow and just moving from one posture to the next. So let's begin with rabbit pose. We'll come into, let's sit back on our knees with our hips back on our feet. And rabbit pose is going to connect the crown chakra with the ground, and basically the earth's energy is going to be flowing in this way through our bodies. So we want to close the loop with our hands by grabbing the backs of our feet or our heels like this, and then slowly drop. The crown of your head is on the top of your head, so as much as you can, drop that towards the mat as close to your knees as possible. You may want to give some space between your knees and your forehead on the next part, but find what's comfortable. There should be no pressure or pain in your neck. Putting the crown of your head on your mat, lift your hips up into the air while holding onto your heels and creating a sort of tension from your heels, pulling on your hands so it stretches between your shoulder blades. Staying strong. We will stay here for a little bit. Taking deep breaths. Lifting the hips up towards the sky. Keeping our thighs engaged. Carrying all of the weight on our legs to protect our neck. Imagine the energy circling from the earth through your crown chakra, down your spine, through all the chakras, coming out of your feet into your arms, up and out your crown chakra and back again. Okay, let's release and bring our hips back to our feet. Put your forehead on the ground, and you can either just drop your arms to the mat, or I like to bring them overhead. And a few deep breaths here. And now coming up onto all fours, just going to walk our knees forward towards our hands and then sit back so that we are sitting with our legs in front of us. And now we are going to work on a shoulder stand. And this will be for the throat chakra. So we just did rabbit pose, which is for the crown and the third eye, bringing that energy up through there. And now we're going to bring and focus the energy on our throat chakra. So we will do that by coming onto our backs. And take a moment to bring your shoulder blades together and down your spine, giving yourself a nice firm base. You'll want to keep the majority of your weight on that base that we just created, and keep as much of it as possible off of your neck. The rest of the weight will be on our elbows as we hold our hips up above us. So create a nice firm base with your shoulder blades. Plant your elbows firmly into the ground and bring your knees into your chest and bring your toes up over you. And as much as you can, I like to rock my way back. So I put my hands down here and I sort of support my hips like this, and I just rock my feet overhead, and then place your hands underneath your hips And then find a way to balance on your shoulder blades, distributing the weight between your shoulder blades and your elbows. I'm just sort of chilling here right now while we set up. Now, cross your right leg over your left leg and just sort of wrap your legs like an eagle pose if you can, where you tuck your right toes behind your left ankle. If you cannot, you can just cross them like you're sitting at a dinner table. And we'll just sit in this, pulling your legs crossed and everything up towards the sky, with your weight evenly distributed between your shoulders and your hips. Deep breaths. See if you can support this posture by engaging muscles in your core or your back or your shoulders. Where can you be engaged to distribute the weight a little bit more evenly throughout your body? And to release, bring your knees towards your forehead, untangle your legs, and slowly, one vertebrae at a time, drop your booty to the mat. And you can use your hands to slow you down. Let's come into Shavasana to rest for a minute here. Taking deep, long breaths. Letting everything settle. And now our next posture will also be on our back, and we will be working on the heart chakra, which is just below the throat chakra. And we are going to do half bridge pose. So you can remain on your back if you would like, bringing your feet up towards your hips and keeping a firm base between your shoulder blades, bringing them together and down your spine. Placing your elbows firmly on the ground and reaching for your feet. They don't have to touch. You can bring them back as far as is comfortable, but it's kind of a nice alignment when your feet touch your hands. Keeping your knees over your ankles and strong. Don't let them sway outward or inward. Try to keep them aligned. If you have a yoga block nearby, pop that in between your knees, and that will help you see how much you want to pull away or pull together. And then once everything is all set up and strong and aligned, lift your hips up into the air for half bridge pose. Make sure that your hips are aligned, one's not dipping lower than the other, and push through your feet. We don't want too much pressure on the neck, so we want to distribute the weight between our shoulders and our feet. So pushing through your feet will help carry some weight from your lower half, and then pushing with your shoulders, keeping them strong and engaged, using your arms to balance out that weight distribution. Push your hips upwards and take deep breaths. When you're ready, release your hips to the ground and sway your knees to the right and then to the left to loosen up your spine and give your knees a little break. And then come into Shavasana, flat on your back, to rest between postures and let the energy settle. When you're ready, we're going to sit up and we are going to meet in all fours. We are going to do some rounds of cat-cow here, another chest opening heart chakra yoga pose. So we'll begin in all fours. Check that your wrists are directly underneath your shoulders and your knees are either hip width apart or just slightly wider. Begin with a straight spine. Remember that your neck is an extension of the spine, so we want to basically be looking at the floor. And this is going to be neutral and relaxed. Now drop your belly towards the mat and lift your hips up towards the sky and lift your chin up so that you are looking forward. Imagine trying to connect your crown chakra with your tailbone while constantly pulling downward through your belly button. Breathe deeply here. With each breath settling deeper into the posture as much as is comfortable. On your next exhale, we come into cat. Pull your belly button up towards the ceiling and tuck your tailbone underneath and tuck your chin towards your chest. And now we'll try to connect our tailbone and our crown chakra the other way. Breathe deeply here. Constantly pulling your ends toward each other and the spine up towards the top of the room. And release. Come into a neutral spine. Sway back and forth a little bit. I like to make S shapes with my spine. And come back into child's pose with your hips dropping over your heels and your head coming to the mat. Breathe deeply. Feel all the free-flowing energy moving through your heart chakra and your chest space. Coming back onto all fours, we're now going to do tiger pose, and this is a little bit of a moving posture. So we will begin by coming into a neutral spine and planting firmly with our left leg, the top of our left foot, pushing into the ground, and our hips even, our left hand and right hand both distributing weight evenly. We're going to bring the right knee up and at the same time bring our chin up. And now reach the sole of your foot towards the crown of your head. Hold here for a moment, taking a deep breath, constantly pulling the sole of your foot towards the crown of your head while making sure that your hips are even and square. Release and drop your knee to the mat. Let out your breath if you were holding it. And we'll do the same on the other side. Lift your left knee up, keeping your right knee strong on the ground, pushing into the mat with your left or your right foot. Lift your chin and see if you can bring the sole of your foot towards the crown of your head. Keeping your hips aligned, your shoulders strong. Breathe. And release. Come back into child's pose again. I like to open my knees a little bit wider this time. Place your forehead on your mat. Just breathe naturally. Coming back into all fours, we are going to move down to our Manipura chakra. So from all fours, tuck your toes and step back into downward facing dog. Downward facing dog can be a passive pose in between flows, or it can be a very active pose and generate a lot of heat and energy. And that is because it can require a lot of engagement from all of your body. So we'll go through that now. Settle into this posture as you are comfortable and take a few deep breaths. Lift your hips towards the ceiling, feeling that extension in your spine. You can have a slight bend in your legs. That'll help increase the extension in your spine. Pull your crown of your head in the opposite direction. Push your shoulders up away from your ears and back towards one another down your spine. And check your weight distribution between your hands. Press both hands firmly into the ground so there's not one part that's carrying more weight than any other part. And continuing with this, lift your hips, bring your shoulders back and down together. Press into the mat with your hands. We'll hold here for a few deep breaths. And release your knees to the mat. Open them wider than your mat and bring your hips back to your heels, your forehead to the mat, and come into child's pose. And when you're ready, we're going to come back up to standing. And we will be working on our sacral chakras, or sacral chakra. Come as if you are coming into Warrior Two, with your front right foot facing the front of your mat and your back foot in line with your front foot, facing slightly towards the side of your mat, maybe a little bit to the front, whatever is comfortable for you. Keeping your hips facing the side of your mat as much as you can and using your glutes to support that. We'll bring our spine upward and our hands extended so that our fingertips are just over our feet. Looking to the front of the mat and keeping this strong base and a light and engaged spine, slowly creep your right hand towards the front, hinging at your hips, and we'll come into extended triangle by dropping your right hand towards your shin and bringing your left hand up towards the sky, and look up towards your left hand. You do not want to put any weight on your lower leg, your hand. You should be able to just move it and still remain in this posture. But we use our hands to keep our chest open. So we're pulling our shoulder blades back and extending through our hands so that our chest remains open. Using our core to keep our spine extended to the front of the mat. And bring yourself back up and release. Bring your left foot to meet your right at the front of the mat. Bring your shoulder blades down and back. Face the palms of your hands towards the front of the mat. Push your hips forward. plant your feet firmly in the ground. Take a few deep breaths. Now we'll do the other side. Leaving your left foot there, step back with your right foot so that it is in line with your left foot. Bring your hips so that they are facing the same direction as the toes on your right foot, towards the side of your mat, using your glutes to support that so that you're not straining, you're supporting that posture. And keeping your knee in line with your ankle and your hip, so that way you have a strong foundation. Lift your chest, pull your shoulder blades back and down, and extend your arms so that they are the length of the mat and your fingertips are over your feet. Look towards your left fingertips and slowly creep your left fingertips to the front of the mat, hinging at your hips. And then drop your left fingertips towards your shin and your right fingertips up towards the ceiling, using your hands to create space in your chest and your core to hold your spine straight. There should be no weight in your hand whatsoever. Looking up at your right fingertips, take a deep breath. Hold. Take a few deep breaths. And release when you're ready. Bring your right foot up to meet your left foot. Bring your shoulder blades back together and down. Palms facing forward. Hips pushing forward and feet firmly planted into the ground. Take a few deep breaths. And release. Now we are going to come back to the floor and charge our root chakra. So we worked from the crown all the way down to finally our root chakra. This is called thunderbolt pose. And you will just be sitting on your knees and have your hips on your feet. And have your hands, palms face down on your thighs. Lift your chest, pull your shoulder blades down and back. Your chin is parallel with the floor. Take a few deep breaths here. Keeping your core and your back engaged so that your spine is strong and it's like a conduit of energy. Pulling energy up through the earth, through your spine and all the chakras. And release. Now let's come into Shavasana and seal the practice up by letting everything we've done settle in. Come onto your back and once again bring your shoulder blades together to create a nice base, and then let your legs and your arms just sort of flop open however is comfortable for you. Inhale until your lungs are completely full, opening your chest, and exhale. With each breath, release tension, release anything that is still holding on, and melt into the mat with deep, slow breathing. Slowly wiggle your toes and your fingers, bringing your body back to this moment, this practice. When you're ready, roll over onto your side in the fetal position and just rest for a moment. Pushing yourself up through your hands, come into a seated position. And find your favorite meditation posture. I'm going to stack my feet this time for no particular reason, just feel like it. So, still keeping my heel towards my tailbone, just tucking my foot into my ankle right here. Placing my hands on the knees, palms up and open for receiving energy and gratitude. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Extend the spine up through your crown chakra. Take a few slow, long, deep breaths. Bringing your palms together with your thumbs touching your forehead at your third eye. Take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, lean forward and bring your forehead to the ground in the ultimate display of gratitude and humility, thanking yourself and everyone who has brought you to this moment. And thank you for joining me. I hope that this is as relaxing for you as it is for me. Thank you for joining me as I work out the kinks. This time I actually looked up yoga postures.